Welcome, everybody. Thank you, all you wonderful on-time people. We'll um, we'll pause and tarry for a second while we let a couple of stragglers come in. I think I will remove my spotlight, and then we can unmute everybody, Natasha, and just have them all say hello for a second, if they would like.
Hello, this is Nancy. Glad to be here.
All right, I like your style, Nancy. Good morning.
Good morning, Jennifer. Grateful to be here.
Yay. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
Yeah, everybody just introduce themselves and say hello. We don't have such a gigantic group that we can't be civil. I mean, come on. Let's see if we can all get along here.
Hi, I'm Jan. I'm actually excited to be here.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Hi, Jan.
Hi, Natasha.
Hi, Jen.
I
Hi.
see Sarah Stitt. Hi, Sarah.
Hey everyone,
Hi, Sarah. It's 5 o'clock. It's afternoon here. I'm not sure if there's anyone else from the UK.
There may or may not be. I'm not sure. I think there should be,
Hi, Aura.
or at least from Europe. Well, look at all these happy, smiley people. I guess we don't really even need a workshop. We can just all hang out for a couple of hours because we're all right. Shall we just get started? Enough chit chat. Let's get down to work here. Okay. Here's an official welcome. I guess I better spotlight myself then. Here's an official welcome to the workshop, which just had a name change. It's not the emotional, it was the emotional sobriety workshop. Now it's the how to be happy workshop. So in the ever evolving process that we have. So I'm going to make a commitment to all of you today to be very imperfect. I have a part that, this morning, speaking about emotional sobriety, I have a part of me that so wants to get this all right and make it all perfect and have everybody love it. And it's just like, I'm just going to let that part know that it's not really that important, that everybody loves it and loves me and all of that, so that we can just kind of set all that aside and just focus on what we want to deal with and talk about, which is your happiness, your relationship to happiness. Before we get too serious about anything, we're gonna start with a prayer and a little bit of a meditation. So let's see. Okay, so Inga, get that. We'll have that recording queued up. So one of our members has put the Serenity Prayer to music, which is kind of cool. So we're going to listen to that now. That's Chris M. She's here with us today. I believe if I'm not mispronouncing it, it's Christina Maloney. So let's just all sort of get into a prayerful place, and let's just kind of listen to somebody else sing the Serenity Prayer for us. All right. Thank you to Chris. Appreciate that. We were just going to play the first part and fade it out, but we had a little technical issue, so you got the whole thing for free of charge. So thank you, Chris. You're out there, I'm assuming. We appreciate you sharing that with us. Okay, I'm going to say a little opening prayer as well. Um, just to sort of ground us in this space, and so again, it's like something's going wrong. And, when you live in a universe where everything's okay, it's like maybe the ego gets frazzled. It's like, oh no. But to sort of be seated in that place of knowing that everything's okay, that's really the trick. That's really kind of the whole deal. So let's have a little prayer. To our deepest, truest selves, thank you for bringing us here. Thank you for bringing all of us here to this place, to be together, to share our spirits, so that our collective spirits can teach all of us dummies here, so to speak, how to let go of all the things we're worried about, how to let go of all the things we hold on to, the things that worry us. Help us to see the truth, which is that all is well in every moment, and to live in that truth. Amen. All right, so Inga is now going to lead us through uh, about a 3-minute meditation just to get us further grounded. Well, I know we don't need to be more grounded than we are, but we're going to go ahead and get more grounded.
Okay, so
And let me
welcome
spotlight you. Give me 1 second.
to the workshop.
Okay.
And I want to welcome every single part and every single aspect of you here. And please just start with finding a comfortable position just for the next few minutes where you can really relax and know that whatever is here, if your mind is busy, if your mind is quiet, everything is just okay. Maybe you can give yourself permission just for the next couple of minutes to allow things to be as they are. Not trying to change them, not trying to fix anything. Give yourself permission to just be here. I want to encourage you to let your attention drop from maybe somewhere around your head into your body and to really feel, how does it feel like to sit on the surface you're sitting on? To feel the stability, the safety, and to watch and feel how the breath is moving your body, how air is coming in, how your body just lets it go again. And maybe you can feel your heartbeat. Maybe you can feel an aliveness, vibrancy in your body. And notice how just this short moment, just attending to the breath and really feeling into your body. Maybe you can notice that it has a calming, a soothing effect. So I want to encourage you during this workshop, whenever things might get tough, it might be boring. You can really do this again. Feel into your body. Watch how your breath is coming and going. And also if there are little tensions, you can ask your body, do you want to let go of this? Not really making yourself relax, but you can just ask for something to let go of. You can do that in meditation, and you can do that with your eyes open when you listen to someone or when you listen inside.
Thank you, Inga. That was lovely. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. Inga will be back later. So we're going to take a look at our agenda for today. Notice it's a hidden agenda, but I'm sharing it with you. You see how that works. You guys are on the inside. Okay, so we're just going to start with a little bit of housekeeping, just to sort of let you know the rules and where things are and how things are going to operate. Then we're going to define what is emotional sobriety so that we all know what we're talking about here. Or we're even going to define happiness, I guess, in its own way. I'll share a little bit of you with my story from deep depression to emotional freedom. And then we're going to talk about the mind, which is the beginning point, the starting point for starting to really understanding how to be happy. And then we'll talk about what's underneath the mind and what is perhaps the motor for the mind, which we're calling trauma. You know, it's funny, I may use the word trauma more than any person I know, and I'm not really that happy with the term. Maybe you all can help me find a better term than trauma, but for right now, that's what we're using. And then we're going to start to talk about how we take our understanding of the mind and how we take our understanding of trauma and apply it to our real world situations today, the things that start to affect us. And that's something we're going to begin here in this first workshop, and we're really going to focus on more in the second workshop. And as you saw in the email, we're also going to sort of pair everybody up and partner everybody up so that they can practice some of these things. That's one of the things we're really trying to do here at Enlightened Workshops, is start to give people a chance to actually put this into their life, not have a great experience or just have great insights, but actually get to practice it and get support in practicing it so that it starts to become a part of who you are. And then we'll be dealing with, you know, how to work with a partner in a safe way. And then we'll give you a sort of a little worksheet to or a downloadable PDF to sort of guide you through that process. Okay, so housekeeping. The workshop is being recorded. We're going to eventually at some point put it on the site so that other people can come and check it out. So there may be an opportunity, not that much today, to sort of interact. So if you're shy and you don't want that, then don't do that. You'll have chances to sort of process stuff on your own. This is not a 12-step workshop per se. What I always say, it's extraordinarily 12-step friendly. You know, I have 27 years in program, and a lot of this stuff that is emerging works so well with the 12 steps. And I have such a fondness in my heart for 12 steps and the 12-step program. And somebody at one point said to me that the work that we do here is like the steps 2.0. And to me, that's actually feels kind of what it is. It's how do we take those same ideas and how do we deepen them? And the other thing that's great is you don't have to learn something if you're a 12-step person, you don't have to learn something entirely new, like try to add to it. It just folds right in. So as part of that same 12-step spirit, though, we're not going to do a lot of crosstalk. If we end up doing breakout rooms, which we may not do today, we just want to no crosstalk, and anonymity is always a good idea. So if you have questions at all during the workshop, please just put them in the chat. And then Natasha will feed me the questions, or her or Inga will answer them just directly. And that brings me to Inga and Natasha. So you met Inga and Natasha. Do you want to say hello? I can.
Yeah, hi.
That's Natasha. She and I have been working together for a long time. So I'm happy to have both her and Inga here. And I'll put them all on screen together. Little happy family kind of situation. And so the reason I want to sort of show them to you and introduce them to you is because they're sort of our safety officers as well. So as we start to dig into this work, sometimes people get triggered. And that's understandable, and that's okay. And for today's workshop, I want to encourage you to go very gently. As we start to touch the things, I just want you just to touch them just a little bit. We're going to do some more work during the week, but then next week we're going to come back and we can probably go a little bit deeper. Right now, just understand that touching these things just to begin with is such an act of self-love and caring for these lost and wounded parts that we don't actually have to like force our way in there or try to get to a big resolution or anything right away. It's really more about having that sort of patience and love and gentleness with these parts, as opposed to having a big experience. At any given point, if you're in the breakout room, you can hit the little question mark help thing at the top, or if you're having trouble during the meeting here, you can start with Inga, chat with Inga, and just say, hey, a lot of feelings are coming up, and she'll take you into a completely separate breakout room and sit with you and work with you in that. Okay. And these are both people that I have processed my deepest, most intimate feelings in the world with. So I trust them implicitly. I feel like if I can trust them, you can trust them. We have gone there together, all the way there. All right. And then if we end up doing stuff, we're taking volunteers. I'll let you know how many volunteers, because we don't want people to feel cheated. And we're going to have questions and answers after. And that, in a lot of ways, is we're going to stop the workshop and do the questions after, so that people who need to go, who are in Europe and such, and it's getting late, don't feel trapped inside the workshop. It says we're going to have 2 breaks. That's a bold-faced lie. We're going to have 1 break somewhere around the halfway point at 10:15. So just try to limit your coming and going as much as you can. Okay, enough of that stuff. Okay, so the premises of the workshop. I kind of always start with this, just because I want you to know where we're coming from when we're talking about these things. And the first is always, you're never upset for the reason you think you're upset, from A Course in Miracles. That's almost a sort of founding principle of understanding recovery. And the way that I say it in my own words is, we're always choosing a lesser pain to cover up a greater pain. And you're going to find that here. And a part of the real trick of being happy consistently and all the time is seeing how parts of us are trying to protect ourselves and choosing a certain pain. A lot of the pain, there was a slide in the last workshop which says our troubles are basically of our own making. And I would say that's sort of true, but it's true unconsciously. We're never really consciously choosing pain. We're doing it more so unconsciously. And that's kind of what the whole workshop is about. And just know that, this work is, I would say it's not hard, because hard is a conversation from the ego. The ego gets very caught up in, this is hard. I would say it is challenging. Like a good workout is challenging in that way. And this is part of the spiritual fitness. This is how you get spiritually fit. You sort of lift the weights. And the sort of lifting of the weights is sitting with your emotions. It's challenging. It's not easy, but it's also, and I just want to say this, it's very simple in a way. and it's very organic. If you wanted to take this whole thing and boil it down to one simple sentence, is we're just learning how to be with what is. That is not a complicated idea. If there's something happening in the moment, we are recognizing it and we are allowing it. And that includes our feelings, but we're so used to taking our feelings and pushing them down that we don't even notice that we're doing it. And then I think probably the most important idea in all of this is you are already a masterpiece, and there's no work that we need to do on fixing you at all. Any voice that says you are not already a masterpiece is the voice of your disease, so to speak. And that's what we're working with. We're working that part of you that feels like it's not a masterpiece because it's misinformed. It's not actually getting the most relevant and updated information, which we're going to start providing it. And everything we do here is to point you to your own deepest inner wisdom, because that is where happiness lies, is you listening to and following that inner voice and starting to learn how to trust it and trust yourself. And frankly, to trust the universe that you're safe enough here. That's why we can make mistakes and screw up, because what are the consequences? We're still whole and complete, even if we're embarrassed. Even if I make a mistake here, it doesn't change who and what I really am. Okay. So, all right. So what is emotional sobriety? You could say, so I'm going to give you a couple of different definitions and ways to look at this. One, you could just say emotional sobriety is happiness. That's maybe not a full enough definition. Maybe an even better definition might be you're happy even when your ego is not happy. So part of emotional sobriety is separating from our egoic childhood reactions in the present and recognizing that those are the things that are happening and that those actually don't really affect me. Sometimes I would say it takes a little bit of time to get there to see that they don't actually really affect me. That's part of the work, is to start to see that separation, to realize a lot of times we have this sense, and I think it's given to us by our left brain, that we are one, that I am this person, Evan. But I would say a more accurate picture of me, Evan, is I'm not one, but I'm two. I'm this true self that's here with you now. And I'm also this personality, sort of my game piece in the game of life, which is really just a bundle of tricks and things that I do to try to get loved and to try to survive. And then you could actually go one step further and say, I'm not two, but I'm 13 to 30, or I'm 13 to 100. In other words, here I am, I'm the true me. And then there's this ego part, but that ego part is made up of a lot of different parts. And each one of those parts it's a separate identity. I think this is the root of, identity disorders, where people have multiple personalities. We sort of all have that to some degree. We get taken over by different personalities at certain times. And so to recognize and to start to get rid of this illusion that we are one, and that at any given moment, we are the thing that has taken us over, or better yet, we have a part that has taken over the car, but that part can never take over the true self. So starting to get all these things understood is a real part of what emotional sobriety and emotional maturity is. You could say emotional sobriety is not believing my thoughts. That's another way to look at it. Not taking my thoughts seriously, realizing that my thoughts misrepresent life, which we're going to spend a good amount of time with today as a starting point. You could say emotional sobriety is using feelings, especially negative feelings, as the fuel for my recovery, for my happiness. Some of you know I like to quote myself every once in a while. There's one time I quote myself. There's another one that I really like. but I forget it. But this is my favorite quote of myself. The unbounded arrogance, to quote yourself. I can't imagine. But your next spiritual awakening starts as a problem, maybe even an explosion. Right. So part of emotional sobriety, emotional maturity, we could say, is recognizing that the things that we think are bad in our lives are actually the things that are helping us to get happier. Each one is an opportunity to learn where my ego is bound and seeing life incorrectly. And it's what helps me break free. The next one is probably my favorite definition for what is emotional sobriety: living in reality. If we were to actually be living in reality, we could not have a problem. It wouldn't be possible. So the more we are in touch with what's actually true, the more at ease we will be. And part of that is part of all of this is understanding that the ego can never be happy, because the ego is really nothing more than a survival mechanism designed to seek out problems, create problems really when there's not one there, and then to try to solve it, which is the sort of function of our life a lot of times, right? We're doing that. That's how we spend a lot of our time, identified with this ego part that's trying to get happy and to try to fix us when we're already perfect, whole, and complete, right? So I don't know if that clarified for you at all what emotional sobriety is, or just gave you a lot more to think about. Let's see if there's anything else I want to say about that. Here's another way to think about emotional sobriety. It's not here on the list. What happens when you throw ink at the sky? Is the sky affected? Is the sky stained? So in the same way, our ego can get activated, but that activation is happening at the level of personality. Okay. This is the moment where I'm supposed to share about me a little bit. So I'm going to do that. So, I'll start my story around, I don't know, in my 20s. And I don't know if you guys had this experience where it's like, I'm out of the house, I'm living on my own. Now I'm free of all of that. And now I'm going to go live my great life. And so I started to become, I made the decision to become this, the greatest filmmaker of all time was essentially my jam. That's what I was trying to do. And it didn't take that many years before all of the weight of my childhood and everything started to impinge on me. And it really came to a head when I was 27 and I found out that I was going to be a father. And it was with somebody who I didn't even like, and we'd already broken up. And so it was this really terrible thing. And probably the most critical moment in all of that was, so I found out I was going to be a father, which was really tough because I had a father who I hated. And I remember driving down the street to work, and I was crying so hard I could barely drive. And I was banging on my steering wheel, going, my father didn't love me. And I just kept banging it and saying the same thing again. So, it took me those, 7 years to realize that the past had gone nowhere, and that the past, I was completely in bondage to the past. And so it took me a couple of years to get into recovery, and I started my recovery journey in DA. And about 5 years in, my situations had changed. My financial situation had improved. It was better. I was living in Santa Monica. I was an apartment manager. But my emotional situation, I got to tell you, was still incredibly volatile, because I was so miserably depressed. I was afraid to go to a psychologist because I knew they were going to say, we need to get you on medication right away, because I'm pretty sure I was clinically depressed, because I would wake up every morning crying. I would wake up and just cry for an hour because I was so miserable. And that went on for like years. And I remember the day that it all changed, and this is, I think this is an important part of the story. But I was lying there in bed and I said, God does not want me lying here in bed, depressed and crying. And a very clear and simple voice said to me, how do you know? And I burst into tears. And the thing that was different was that all this time I had been fighting that depression, that sadness, fighting it tooth and nail. And suddenly I just let go and I surrendered. And I lied in bed for a week and just cried. All that depression. And that, I discovered what was underneath that depression. What was underneath that depression was terror and rage. I was terrified of my father and I was enraged at him. And this underlines that point that we talk about, where I say we always choose a lesser pain to cover up a greater pain. So the greater pain in this case was the real trapped feelings that I had of being terrorized by my father and the rage that I had because of that situation. Those were the real feelings that were happening in me. But the depression was a perfect, like, wet blanket that I could just throw over the top of the thing and just be miserable. Does that make sense? Like, that's how I was using depression. So depression was a lesser pain that I knew how to deal with, because in my upbringing, I couldn't get mad at my father. There's no way. If I got mad at my father, I remember one time I got mad at him and his rage came back 3 times worse. There was no way I was going to get mad at him. So you know what worked? Being depressed. Now, he didn't like that, but it was a lot safer than getting angry. And so that's what I learned how to do. And so I carried those skills into my adult life. So then I'm going to jump ahead 20 years or so, right? That was an important breakthrough. And I was never really depressed in the same way ever after that, because I understood that equation. I understood that I was, that in order to really be free of it, I needed to feel that terror and the rage. And I did, and I started to deal with that. So jump ahead, 20 years or so, not 20 years, about 12 years. So here I am, I'm a new father. I'm earning well. I'm doing really well in my life. I have a new baby that's just been born. I'm earning lots of money, living in Santa Monica. It's all great. And my son woke up in the middle of the night. And at the time, I was really listening to Eckhart Tolle a lot, watching my thoughts. And I was just getting ready to transition to sort of the next phase of my journey, right? So we're going to talk in here about how important it is to be able to sort of witness your thoughts and see your thoughts. So my son was crying in the middle of the night. I get up and my mind says, this is a nightmare. And I was so struck by that. 8 billion people on the planet. This has pretty much happened to every parent. How could this be a nightmare? This is just everyday life. But for my nervous system, it's a nightmare. I'm being punished. And that's when I really started to sort of shift. And I went to this great meeting called Primetime. I recommend it. The website is Primetime is Now. Natasha, maybe you can put that in the chat. Primetime is Now. So it's a meeting where they talk about this. They talk about the sort of disease under the disease. They talk about how the mind creates our unhappiness. And this is where I started to see this. And very quickly, I got involved in Byron Katie. And I used these two things together. And what happened for me was really kind of miraculous. So in the beginning, I was terrified and I was freaked out all the time. But after doing both of these things for about a year, I had about 5 years of extraordinary happiness. And the essential idea is the thought came and I was paying attention and I saw the thought. And I was able to sort of, using the Byron Katie method, sort of question it and see that it wasn't true and get myself back to neutrality. And so that was incredibly powerful. And I later learned it's like, that is fantastic. And it's not really the whole picture. So, after doing that for 5 years and being happy and pretty much thinking I had life sorted out, because I was doing all these things. I was wake up at 4:30 in the morning and work out and write for an hour and go to my job. And I was winning awards. And I thought, because my mind was so clear, I was functioning so well. And then the wheels came off, so to speak. I went to this workshop and it was all about tearing down the ego, but also trying to save the world. And my whole nervous system got mixed up because it had been about 6 years. And it was about time for me to go through my next spiritual revolution. I kind of do them 6 to 8 years because, of course, just heading my thoughts off at the pass was not the final answer. Because what that did, or what it didn't do, rather, was it didn't address. Oh, here comes. Do you need anything, honey?
Sorry.
No.
I'm getting some sweatpants for you.
Okay. My lovely wife wants to come in. That's okay, right? Here she comes. Come say hi to everybody. Is she in the background? Oh, you can't see her. Hold on. There she is.
Hi. Our son's going to sleepaway camp for the first time. And he's not nervous at all, which is so weird. I would be so nervous.
My son going to camp has been a very lifelong dream for my wife, because she had such a great experience with camp. Let's see, am I supposed to be on to the next thing? Oh yeah, that's my story there. Okay. Anyway, so and as some of you know, she and I are going to do in a month or two, we're going to do a relations workshop, just to talk about why we're so darn happy together. And the thing about that's really cool. Oh, pardon me for a second. My like today's all about embracing the errors and the mistakes. So my camera shuts off every once in a while. Wait, here I am. Haha. We have this wonderful relationship, and the thing about it is a lot of it's based on what we're going to talk about today and really working on ourselves. But it's like the reason that we're happy is actually not just because we chose well or anything like that. It's actually because it's like we sort of know exactly everything we did, and so that's what we're going to share. So we're just going to say these are all the things that we did, and look, and we're very clear why it produced the results it did. So anyway, but it's germane to this too, because that going to the next level, the thing that was sort of in error for me around the Byron Katie thing was there was still me trying to get away, protect myself from the boogeyman. And what I realized is all of that trauma and all that terror and the fear of my father, all that stuff was still living in the body. So what I was doing was I was catching it here at the mind before it could activate the body. But it was also this eternal vigilance that I was doing. Right. And then that's what fell apart. There was this other layer of ego that was there. And what I've realized is, oh, I don't have to do that. I don't have to manage. I can just relax. Yeah, the feelings are going to come up, but as the feelings come up, they move through me. And every time they move through me, I get more of my soul. And that's what's been happening for me this last 4 years. There's this positive spiral and increasing happiness. And in that sort of wash cycle, different parts of the ego get washed away. I have no illusion that all of my ego is probably going to disappear in this lifetime at all. But sort of piece by piece, God will say, this part is still sticking around, you know what I mean? And sort of those feelings that are stuck with it, because it's a part that is in this bondage, wounded. It believes that it's no good. And the more light that comes into it, the more that starts to shift. And so it's this really miraculous process. And I guess that's why I say I'm comfortable enough to say to you, like, look, these are the things that I've done, and this is what's happened to me. And I want to share that with you because I've shared it with a bunch of people now, and their lives are changing for the better. And so it's not really theory anymore. It's really more, for me at least, it's not, right? For you guys, you're still trying it on. And remember, you have to listen to what resonates for you, right? That's the important thing. This path may not be for you, and that's okay. Because there are a lot of different paths and a lot of them intersect and say the same things. And I'm a big believer in triangulation, hearing it different ways. And this is one of the ways. And it may be a way that really resonates for you. And if so, I'm glad, because there's something very extraordinary and real here. And I very much want you to experience that freedom, because for me, that's what life has become about. Life is no longer about me getting the success and getting those things. It's about me experiencing more and more of that joy on a daily basis. So that's why I guess I feel I'm qualified to share that with you. Okay. Okay. So now You got a sense of who I am and why I'm sitting here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to give you all an opportunity to introduce yourselves. I'd love for all of you to turn on your camera and say hello. We'll pick you. I'll just pick you one at a time. So, Natasha, I'm going to unspotlight, and then you can just spotlight whoever's talking. And then if for some reason you can't, we'd love for you to turn on your camera. If for some reason you can't turn on your camera because it'll blow up your internet, that's fine. But why don't you raise your hands and your digital hands, and we'll just choose you in order. And as a matter of fact, Natasha, does it make more sense for you to choose them or me to choose them?
I just think we should call on people.
Call on people? Wait, some people are going to raise their hands, aren't they? To go, oh, nobody wants to go first?
I'm volunteering Jan.
And so should I set the timer?
Yeah, just we're going to give you each roughly a minute when you hear the timer. Actually, you know who I'd like to start with? Angie, would you be willing to start?
Sure.
Okay. No pressure. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna take myself off of here. Okay. Say hello to us, Angie. So you want to say who you are, and you also want to share why you're here. And then also, because we're going to choose partners at a certain point, you may also kind of say what time, maybe if you do it in Pacific time, what kind of hours are good for you? Because everybody's going to get paired up one way or another. You can choose your own partners, or we're going to pair you up. So it'll be good to know just kind of who's compatible time-wise. So those three things: who you are, why you're here, and what time zones are good for you to connect with others. Okay, Angie, take it away. Thank you for being brave.
Sure. Hey, I'm Angie. I'm in Colorado, so that's mountain time zone. And I am here, well, let me see. I have about 12 years of recovery and different recovery programs. And the reason I'm here is because I think that there are, although I love 12-step recovery very, very much, I appreciate the way that Evan kind of helps integrate some missing components or some ways for things to kind of just go a little deeper and get more clarity through, in addition to doing the 12 steps. Thanks. Pass.
Natasha, why don't you choose the next person?
Oh, Jan.
Hi, hi, I'm Jan. I'm in recovery. I'm new in recovery. I think today is day 85 of sobriety. However, over the last 3 years, I've been doing a lot of work. I was in graduate school. I have a degree in master's in psychology, and I was doing some really deep work. And I'm just so used to being on that level. I'm now trying to uncover some really subconscious wounds that are really deeply embedded that I'm trying to bring to the surface. So that's what I'm working on, because I'm just so used to doing that work that sometimes in 12 step, it's just only on a certain surface layer. So I'm really excited about doing this work. So, I'm in Los Angeles. I'm on Pacific time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Who's next? I want to start seeing some hands. I want to start some people standing up and saying, this is who I am, or at least who I pretend to be. Okay, there we go.
This is Nancy. This is who I pretend to be.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'm in California, and I'm almost 75 years old. And I don't know what that number means because I still feel about 45. And I've been doing 12-step program work, which has helped me a great deal. And I was taken with Evan's workshop about the steps and how he kept trying to go to the layer below, and also tying it to a lot of childhood wounds. So this is the first time in my life where I haven't been taking care of people. It's the first time in my life. No pets, no, my dad, I took care of him till he passed. And now I'm living here where my daughter lives with her husband and 2 kids in Chico, California. And I have time to myself, real time to myself. My time's up.
Thank you, Nancy. Amber?
Hi, Amber. I'm from Texas, so that's Central Standard Time. I've been in recovery for 9 years, and someone recommended I think the STEP workshop. I wasn't able to be very present. I was listening to it on the way home from work, doing, multitasking, doing a ton of things, and I found it to be very helpful. I do feel like Bill Wilson in that, emotional sobriety letter where you have sobriety from a lot of things, but still crazy, very crazy. So I'll pass. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Amber. You're in the right place. Because that once you get past putting all the stuff down and you realize all you're doing is taking away your different medications, and now you have to start to deal with the real problem, that's really what this community is for sure. Like, okay, which is so exciting, right? Because it's like all we've gotten rid of all the ways that we've hidden from ourselves, and now we get to deal with ourselves. But the good news about that is now we get to start really being happy, because now we're getting down to where the stuff gets created. That's very exciting. Thank you for sharing that. Nancy S.
Nancy in San Antonio, and I am so grateful to be here today. Like the other Nancy who shared, I'm 70, and just let's see. So I got sober in 1985, and I've been in and out of working the DA program until October of 22, when I came back in earnest, saying, I surrender. I can't manage my own life like this anymore. So I heard you speak, Evan, and I've become a little workshop junkie to learn more. I appreciate this. I'm here today because I tend to push my feelings away, stuff them, avoid them. I'm ready for some emotional sobriety and grateful to be here today. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nancy. That's beautiful. All right, Cliff. Oh, I saw Cliff next, and then we'll do Delia.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cliff. I'm from Nevada, California. So the best time for me to do this, working with somebody, would be between 5 and 6 p.m. I work all day, so it'd be after work. So yeah, I've been in 12-step programs for about 18 years. And it feels like around COVID, I kind of stopped going. Well, I stopped because of COVID, and then I never really got back into it. And ever since then, I've been searching for a new program. I tried Al-Anon. It was a really strict program, and after a while, I was overwhelmed. And then I tried BDA. I did a couple workshops, and I really loved that. So I'm kind of resonating towards that. Maybe going back to Al-Anon. I'm just kind of don't know what I want to do. So I'm searching for something. My wife showed me this workshop. I went to the last one, and I'm trying this out. So yeah, I'm just exploring all my avenues, and hopefully I'll land somewhere that's God wants me to be. So
Wonderful, Cliff. I'm a huge fan of BDA. That's where my journey really started. So I can recommend that pretty highly. So great, and so great to have you here. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Delia.
Hi, I'm Delia. I'm in Houston, Texas, so Central Time Zone, and I came in 91, and recently am back with BDA. I've done a lot of Al-Anon and ACA. And I'm here today to I went to the 4-step workshop with Evan, and I really like his take on things. I really like the depth of clearing So I'm excited for getting more happy.
Great. All right. Let's see. Who is next? Aura. Happy to have you
Hey
here.
everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, thanks so much. Hi, I'm Aura. I'm outside of Jerusalem, Israel,
Wow.
and I'm here because you came to speak at a meeting that Natasha invited you to. And
Hmm.
then I've just been on the good energy train of recovery and happiness. But I also think I'm here just seeking like-minded individuals and community. And I know that we need each other to grow in understanding and effectiveness because I have a lot of blind spots, just me and myself.
Mm.
And also because I've been seeing, like you said, like my emotional upheaval just in the last month, or things that I perceive that are my problem are also my gateway to spiritual awakening. And it's been so profoundly clear that, like, on a cellular level, I'm changing. And
Mm.
so anything I can do to like kind of push the envelope and like get to the next frontier, I'm like so willing. So just being
Wow.
open-minded. Thanks.
That's so beautiful. It's like music to my ears. Thank you. That's great. Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah and I'm from London, UK. So it's 5 o'clock. No, it's 6 o'clock now. I'm here because I've been having real huge crises. I'm 20 years clean and I've been in rooms a lot longer than that. And I've been in BDA and I'm on step 8 in BDA. And I've gone into ACA and I've got complex, as a result of this stuff working, I've got complex PTSD and I've got ADHD and I'm 2 days taking medication, and I have to tell you that I'm freaked out because I've never taken medication and I'm doing this because I've been advised to do it.
Mm.
But I feel very out of control and I feel like I'm going to lose myself.
Mm.
But I have to believe in God, and I'm not on a stimulant. I have to say that. No one will give me a stimulant because I've had the strokes. Anyway, that's me. I'm here
Yeah.
to support myself and to
Yeah.
not stop running away.
Mm. I'm so glad you're here. No, seriously, I'm so glad you're here. You know, this is a huge part of why we do this, right? Because this is, we all have this. Our emotions take us over. Our emotions rule our lives. And so, there's these notions of simple, like one event trauma, and then there's complex trauma. I haven't met anybody who doesn't have complex trauma. I haven't met a person, and so, for me, I say, I think I may have told you guys this before, but if somebody loses their job, they get fired, I say congratulations, because I know something better is coming. And so, you know, also too, when it looks like things are falling apart, that's such a part of this work. And for me, that's one of the ways that I'd love to see our society change is, it looks like it's falling apart, but really it's falling together. And this falling apart of the ego in these parts, like if you talk to my sponsees, they will tell you without exception, I recommend a lot of being in bed. It's like I can't get to bed. I go, good, you're in the right place. Now you're getting somewhere, because so all I would suggest that all of this that's happening to you is this wonderful process. And we need to learn, all of us, how to embrace, because 4 years ago, I literally fell completely apart. I mean, absolutely completely apart. And it was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. So we misunderstand these beautiful things that are occurring. It's really caterpillar to butterfly. And when you're in the middle of it, that darn caterpillar was like, I'm king of the jungle. I can walk upside down on trees. I've got 100 legs. And in the middle of the process, he's goo. He's just goo. And that's what happens to us. We turn into goo. And it just is so disorienting and so confusing. And so, this is a place where we can start to all together start to understand that all of this happening and this stuff coming apart is actually good, because it's the pain that forces us to see who we really are. And that's where the joy comes from, right? It's not about, oh, I got all my stuff together and then I'm happy. It's embracing the road and that you're on. So thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. Okay. Jennifer?
Hello, I am Jennifer, and I am so grateful to be here. I am that girl with the internet issues, so I apologize that my camera is not on. I am here. I'm in California, Pacific time, and I am here because I swear I've been pursuing emotional sobriety for a couple of decades before I knew what emotional sobriety even was. Long before I got sober 6.5 years ago, and have been in several 12-step programs. My journey on this path started with the Celestine prophecy in like 1995, and then it moved on to things like Eckhart Tolle and Byron Katie and Course in Miracles and All is One. And I'm here to help myself learn to be more efficient and effective and connected with that distance between head and heart. There seems to be a lot of connection at certain times and then a lot of disconnection at other times. I would like to get more into the connected. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, and I'd say we want to get completely out of here, our head, right? And we want to start in our heart and we want to come down to our soul. You know, I think Bill, or I think it was Bill or somebody in that circle wrote language of the heart. What we're talking about here is language of the soul. So we're going deeper than just the heart, because that's where the real quiet is. That's where the real joy is. It's down beneath even the heart. Okay. Chona.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chona Summers. I'm in California on Pacific time, and I'm here for this workshop because I'd really love to deepen my connection. And I've had several spiritual awakenings, and I just know there's more to come. And I heard you share in a meeting, and I was really impressed with. I just really resonated with everything you said, and then you offered workshops, and I really love the workshops so far because they speak the language that I speak, and they are on the same path I'm on. And I just really need to deepen that. And I'm in several different recovery programs, so I'm glad you're having this workshop. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Isn't it great that us like-minded, like-souled individuals can come together and share? Because just like with 12-step, it really takes somebody who knows what you're going through, you know, and when you're trying to go to the next level, you really need other people who are like, who aren't going, what are you talking about? You know, you just do this, this, and this, and you're fine. You know, you need other people who are traveling that same road and who get it, who go, yes, I know what you're talking about. I see what you're dealing with. We all need that. Absolutely. Odelia.
Hi. Oh, sorry. There we go. Hi. Nice to see you.
Yes, you too.
I live in Jerusalem. It's a little bit after 8 p.m. I had intended to be home long before, but I actually just got home not so long ago. But I listened to you from the beginning. I've been in 12 steps, I don't know, more than 20 years. I don't think I was ever a resounding success in any of them, but I've been around. And anyway, even despite that, I advanced even so. You know, the language Evan speaks, it resonates with me very, very much. I feel like I was incarcerated. I've been incarcerated by my emotions for most of my life. And I want to be free. I want to be free and happy or connected to what already is. That's me.
Wonderful. Thank you, Odelia. Okay. Where am I? Can you see me?
Hold on for 1 second. I think Chris just came in.
Okay.
So I don't know. Chris, if you want to say hi too.
Oh, yeah. Let's have Chris say hi.
And celebrate her for the music.
Yeah, exactly. Chris, were you here when we
Of
played
course
your
not.
I'm so
Oh,
upset because I just found out. I literally should have I was just writing to Inga again. I should have sent her a request for the link because I asked you for a link at like 8 o'clock, and it just never ever came. And I kept waiting and waiting and
oh,
waiting. And
really?
now she tells me that you guys played my song and I wasn't here. I'm
Oh my
thinking like, oh,
gosh. I'm
well,
so sorry. I'm not sure what happened.
I don't
You
know
must have not
either.
been on the list. Huh. Well, I'm so sorry about that. Well, we have the recording for you.
I know. That's what I
Yeah.
said. And I said, boy, it really put me in touch with my emotions.
Right? Good. Well, I'm glad we could trigger your deep emotions so
Oh
that you
my
could deal with them
God.
in an emotional sobriety workshop. It's see how God is? It's perfect.
I was even wondering why I need to take this last night. And
I am so
Inga wrote,
sorry. I am so
it's
sorry. I
okay.
apologize.
I'm glad to be laughing because Inga wrote me around 2 a.m. and I said, yeah, I'll see you at the workshop. And it's like, wow, I couldn't believe it because I wasn't going to come, it's like, oh my God. So here we are.
Okay, so just tell us quick why you're here and then kind of what time zone you're in.
I'm in Central Time in Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA. And why am I here? I go to 12-step programs on the regular. I actually went to 2 this morning already. And I really love being in touch with that part of my life, my higher power. And to keep me serene and happy, I listen to bird videos and waterfall videos. And I also love listening to chanting because I lived in India for a year. So I feel pretty serene in my emotional state most of the time, except when something doesn't go my way. So this was a very interesting experience. I was like pissed off, like you wouldn't believe. I haven't felt that kind of anger
Oh,
in a
God.
long time. So I'm glad to talk about it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Well, it's again, it is kind of perfect to look to peel back the layers, right? I'm sorry we had to do it that way.
That's okay.
Uh,
God had other
Yeah, I
plans.
guess so. All right. Well, thank you for having such a wonderful attitude about it.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
So I guess one of the questions I have is I was sort of going to do one little section here, getting started on talking about the mind. But we have a break coming up, and I was just wondering, like, should we take the break now or is it too early? Just sort of take the break now. Everybody wave your hands if you think we want to take a break now or we want to go a little bit.
We're going to 11:30, right?
Go to 11:30. Yeah. Okay. We're going to do this next section then because I didn't see any hands. So we're going. Okay. All right. So let me find the right slide and we will continue. Yeah, it's great. It's great to just see all these mistakes and it's great to watch my ego contract and go, oh no, because it's like for my parts is like, oh no, I did it wrong. I'm going to get in trouble. For me, a lot of I have a rageaholic father. So it's like, it's literally, I'm going to die. That's in my spine right now. That's the thing that's trying to sort of go, oh, and I can watch that and I can see that part and I know that part that's terrified of, oh my gosh, what have I done? And they're going to hate me and no one's going to love me. And I can breathe. And also too, that truth and that spirit is right there. And so when both are there, I can know that I'm the true spirit and I can have love for the part that's having the reaction. That's a bit of emotional sobriety. Yeah. It's like, we can't stop the reactions, but we can learn how to be with the reactions. Okay. So now we're moving on here to let me spotlight myself. Talking about the mind, right? So the reason we're starting here is because I don't think you can really get to true happiness if you believe the contents of your mind. If you think you're real because your emotions, your emotional body responds to what the mind is telling you. And if your mind says, oh my God, it's all falling apart and this is a disaster, and you believe that, and your body believes it, it has to react. And so now you are not free. Now you are the reaction, right? So on a certain level, we have to start to get just how fallible the mind is and what not a good tool it is for collecting truth. The mind and the truth have very little to do with each other. All right. That's the way that I would say it. and I want to see you guys. So give me 1 second. Okay. So, and there's a lot of reasons, and we're going to go through these, and I'm going to try to go through them as quickly as I can, so that we have more time for all of us getting to feel some things. But this is just kind of groundwork that I want. And we have a little more groundwork in this one. It was very awkward splitting these two up into 2 workshops, a lot more awkward than I thought it would be. So we have a little bit less breakout room time and maybe sharing time as we sort of build the sort of structure to sort of start to go into this and feel and get past the mind. And next time will be a little bit more process heavy. Okay, so I love this quote. I don't see the world as it is. I see the world as I am. That is a deep and enduring truth, which hopefully we'll start to see. That what we're reacting to is not the world, but we're reacting to our mind reacting to the world. Okay, the mind cannot see the reality of life. And there's a lot of reasons for it. We're going to start with the most basic. So the visible spectrum of light, we know, and science tells us, there is more light on either side of what we can see that our body has not evolved to see. So there's light there that's happening, that's real, but we can't see it, right? So there's truth that's hidden from us. We're limited, and that's true in all of our senses. That's true with our hearing. It's true with our taste, everything. There's more information than we're getting there. So we're never, ever, ever, ever getting the whole picture. We're getting a sliver of reality to start. Okay. And next, to cut that sliver down even more, the mind, because even that data that we get is still way too much for the human body and the human nervous system to process. So what does the mind do? The mind filters. It selectively chooses what we focus on and what we don't focus on. Right? So it says, this is important. I'm going to focus on this. So imagine you're in a restaurant, a crowded restaurant, and you're having a conversation with somebody. Well, in order to have that conversation and hear them, what do you have to do? You have to tune out the rest of the reality that's going on. So reality is happening over here. These people are talking, they're having a conversation, and you are purposely ignoring them. Right? And your mind is helping you do that. And you do that consciously, but your mind also does it unconsciously. And we're not in control of when what it decides to filter out and what it says it's important. So here, let's do this. This should be fun. Let's see if this works. Okay. We have this little awareness test. And let me just make sure. Okay. Check this out. I think you'll enjoy this. Okay, here it comes.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make? Go! The answer is 13.
Okay, how many of you are able to catch that and count 13 passes? You're able to focus and get that? Yeah. And some of you, no. Okay. Let's watch the rest of the video.
But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Go!
Okay, now did you guys all get that? Yeah. So how many of you saw the bear the first time? Anybody? Okay. So that to me is kind of one of the best metaphors for life I've ever seen. You and I and everybody we know is so focused on being happy that we can't see what's happening inside of us. You notice that you were focused on one thing, but so your mind and your nervous system said, okay, this is a test. I need to get this right. I'm going to do my best. And it focused out, it filtered out everything that wasn't that. And look at what we missed. So we are never getting the full picture. we're always being deceived a bit by the mind. Okay, and then there's what I call, this is not a scientific term by any stretch, but it's what I call location bias. Okay, so wherever you are in life, you're standing in one spot. So let's say all of us go out on a picnic, which that's, for the next workshop, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a picnic. And we witness a car accident, okay? But we got spread out over time, so we're all in different parts. Some of us cross the street. Not one of us has the same perspective. Not one of us has seen the same thing. This car accident is happening in reality, but we all have different viewpoints from it. So my favorite analogy for this is, imagine we're all looking at Mount Everest. This is a picture of Mount Everest. And some of us are standing on one side of it, and we say, yeah, there are a lot of trees. And we're on a walkie-talkie with somebody else. And they're like, no, I don't see any trees. I see a lot of rocks, a lot of rocks. And the person on the other walkie-talkie is like, huh, you guys sure? Pretty much all snow, isn't it? Right, because reality is three-dimensional and the mind is two-dimensional. The mind thinks in 2D static pictures. So to understand this, is the thing I talked about earlier, triangulation, to really understand what Mount Everest looks like, if you get up in a drone and you fly around it and you see the whole thing, then you have an understanding of what the whole thing is. And this is how holy wars start. Everybody's looking at the same thing, but they're looking at it from different sides. And they have these different perspectives and they see it from their angle. And, and so often, and especially with the things we're talking about, religion and things like that, a lot of times they're saying the same thing, but the words are different and people get caught up on the words, right? So we want to always be aware that whatever we're seeing that we think is fact is not fact. We cannot see reality. We see our version of reality. A lot of times I'll be talking to people and people will say, yeah, but the real world. And I say no such thing. There is no such thing as the real world. You have 8.5 billion different versions of what the world is, and no two agree. So we can't have a meaningful conversation about the real world. There's a quote. Did we have that one already? We had that one already. I do not see the world as it is. I see the world as I am. How we react to the world tells us more about us than it does about the world. Okay. Also, aging reduces perception. Sorry for some of us who are getting a little bit older, right? Our senses are getting, I can't hear the same high frequencies. So my son talks, and pardon me for 1 second. My son talks and I say, I didn't hear you, or I did, what was that? So he's saying something, but I'm not getting it. And a lot of times, because it hasn't happened so often, I just go, yeah. And pretend that I heard it. And then memory. Okay, so here we are. We're having all these experiences that we're taking in, right? So we're getting this small sliver, but then we see that the mind is the information's reduced because we're looking at it from one viewpoint, and then our mind's filtering even from that one viewpoint. So we have this huge funnel of reality, and it's coming down to this small sliver that we're getting. And then the second it happens, it's over and it's gone. And now what is it? Now it's a memory. And scientists tell us that 40% of memory is 40% effective. That means more than half the time it's incorrect. Your perception, your memory of what happened is not accurate. So you can see the mind is not reliable. We're making this very strong case of why you shouldn't trust your mind as a vehicle for truth. And we were talking about coming from here to the heart, which can see truth better, and to the soul, which that's where you can actually see what really is true. Because truth is paradoxical and the mind cannot follow. I don't think I put it in this one. I put it in the last one of the last workshops. But my buddy Tom W, he has this analogy. He says, us trying to understand God, which is another way of understanding truth, is like an ant trying to understand the stock market. Our minds cannot comprehend the fullness and truth of life, but it seems like it can. So all of that to be said, that's just kind of the physical limitations of the mind to begin with. But then we get to the even more and deadly part of the mind, which is interpretation, which we'll pick up after the break. We're going to take a short 5-minute break. And what I want you to do during this break is we're going to leave all of this on. And during this break, you can actually chat with other people in the group if you want to look and see about partners. I want you to start thinking about, the people that are in here, the people who are time zone compatible, but also maybe emotionally compatible. Or, I know we had 2 people from Jerusalem. Is that a perfect God fit, or is it not? I don't know. But start to explore that. Because I think if you can sort of find a partner in this, and, it's funny, I'm taking this trauma course. And there's some great things in it. There's some things where I think the things that we're doing are perhaps even more effective. But one of the things I see is she wanted to create this sense of community. And she said, that's one of the people I wanted people to come together. And I could see that it was not really possible for all these people to reach out. So we're giving you more help this time to really connect with other people, because to do it by yourself, I realize now, having taken that course, too much to ask. So we're going to sort of help you and support you to partner up to bring this into your life. So take a 5-minute break, use the restroom, whatever you need to do, but also start thinking about and seeing if you can start to just chat people and start to say, hey, would you be interested in being a partner? Because when we assign, for all those of you who are left unassigned, once we put you together, we're not really going to be able to change the partners because it's just too much management, right? So you're going to be kind of, not to put it the wrong way, but stuck with the partner that you're with, which is fine because it's really all about just listening. And we all know how to listen. We all have these big, gigantic hearts that know how to listen. Okay. So let's take a 5-minute break. If you could time that, Inga, that would be great. So on your mark, get set, and break. And feel free, I don't know if everybody's muted or unmuted. Feel free to talk right now during this break if you want to, with each other. Say, hey, can I get your number? Yada, yada. So I don't know. Is everybody muted or unmuted? We can unmute everybody. Or feel free to unmute yourselves. Or just take a break. You guys decide. Okay, everybody, we're back. Did anybody partner up? Did anybody get a partner? Okay. Good. All right. So we're going to continue down this road of just investigating the mind. And we're going to, as we go, we're getting good, Aura. We're going to get more and more down to sort of what really matters, right? So the mind and its perceptions, create this reality. I love this quote from Byron Katie. So simple. We're going to talk about Byron Katie a little bit, right, as a sort of basis for some of this notion, for some of those of you, is that English, who really are stuck believing the things that the mind says. Byron Katie is a good way to get unstuck from that. Now, I think what we do here is better by getting down to the emotion beneath it. But, for me, it's tough because I had a 6-year foundation in this. So it's like, it was very easy for me to step back and see that the mind is misrepresenting and distorting reality. So, so again, for those of you who are struggling with it more, the Byron Katie work, again, we're going to walk through a little bit of a process. But when I believe my thoughts, I suffer. When I don't believe my thoughts, I don't suffer, is pretty high wisdom, I think. Okay, so interpretation. So the mind is always interpreting the truth. So imagine your least favorite news outlet, okay? The one that you really don't like because it twists the truth and you can see the bias, okay? That's what your mind is always doing. So it's getting this limited perception and inaccurate view of the world. And then, and we're going to see pretty quickly that a lot of it is because of our internal hurt that it's skewing the information. But how is the mind skewing and interpreting this information? It's interpreting it based not on fact, right? Because, you know, a lot of us who watch the news, which I don't, right? Because I want to be happy. So I don't watch a lot of the news. We're not getting that unbiased view. We're getting somebody trying to spin it for some reason. And so if our minds spin it, why do they spin it? They spin it for our safety. Our nervous system is trying to survive. And so it's going to take this data and it's going to interpret it such that I come out better. It's for me. And the problem with that is like we said before, the more reality that you're in, the more peace you're going to have. And so these parts that are controlling the flow of information are doing it mostly out of fear. So the truth is coming in and it's getting twisted by fear before it gets to you. This is the big problem with the mind. It's just not giving us, we're getting partial information and then it's getting twisted. So like, let's say I'm driving along and I get cut off in traffic. My mind says that guy is a jerk, right? I, of course, didn't realize that his son is having a nut allergy and he's racing him to the hospital. So is he a jerk? No, he's not a jerk. He's doing what he needs to do to protect his son. But in my mind, if my mind tells me he's a jerk and I don't recognize that it's a thought, it is truth. This is the problem with the mind. It occurs for us as truth if I don't question it. And again, that's biological. And the reason it occurs as truth, right, is for, I'm trying to think, like, I guess, let me ask the question to the room. Why does it seem like truth to us, the things that the mind says? Feel free to unmute and throw out your answer. Why does what the mind is saying to us seem like it's truth?
I think because we said that our mind operates in the 2D, so we're just going off of like what we're hearing, we're just going off the senses.
Right.
So it's the immediate presentation of like our senses.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I think we can all cop to the notion that we don't always see the bias that the mind is presenting us with, right? Like it very often twists it. Like you get a text from somebody, you know what I mean? And you go, you can hear it. It's like, can you believe how she texted this? Please bring the milk. Can you believe her? Because you think you can hear the tone in the text, right? Because our mind is interpreting, it's adding or subtracting. I'd say the reason why it occurs like truth is because that voice is in our head. It's right here. It's closer than anything. It's closer than anything else could be. That voice is right here. So it seems like it's truth. And if I can encourage you, one thing is to start to not trust that voice in your head. In other words, start to treat that voice in your head like any other stranger. If a stranger came up to you and said the things to you that your mind is saying, you would slap them on sight. You would not stand for it. Absolutely. You would get away from that person and you would say they are toxic and I would never speak to them again. But because it's in your mind, it's like true. And so, one of the ways that it really twists things. So let's say I take a test and I get a 62%, right? Which is not a passing grade, right? So I failed the test. Okay. And my mind doesn't say, oh, you failed the test. The mind says, you are a failure. And so, do you see how that seems like truth? There's a quote in the Bible, something along the lines of Satan, not to get biblical on you, but Satan is the master of lies and half truths. Do you see how when you just take I failed the test to I'm a failure, you see the gigantic difference it makes to your central nervous system? To say I failed the test, well, that's kind of neutral. To say I'm a failure, well, you're going to be in bed for the next 3 days eating a lot of ice cream. You know what I mean? Like that's the difference between those two things. And it's so subtle that we don't see it. Okay. We sort of covered that already. Okay. So what's this? Oh, okay. So I say to you tree, and it immediately forms a picture in your mind. You know, is that the picture that you saw when I said tree? Or was it that? Or was it that? Was it that? Which one? It was probably neither of those. How many times have you gone by a tree and your mind has said tree, and that was it? Now, it says here in this quote, trees are as close to immortality as the rest of us ever come. You could spend potentially an entire lifetime sitting and looking at a tree and discovering something new about it in every moment. But what do? We walk by it and our mind does what it does. It filters. It says tree. I know that. And what do you miss when you look at that two-dimensional postcard of that tree? You miss the magic, the wonder, the immediacy. You miss the way the light hits the leaves. You miss the way the breeze moves it. And I guarantee you, if you sat and with a tree for 5 minutes and looked at it, at the end of that, if you could quiet your mind even for a second, you'd be in awe of that tree. It's kind of funny because there was a sort of I saw that I had a choice at one point in my development where I could go down the road that I've gone down, which is sort of to really go inside myself and to really witness what's happening here. But then another equally valid path would be to go, because I used to do this. I just go sit and look at a leaf, a single leaf. And I tell you, I was just so struck in every second by the color variation, the way the veins would move and stuff. And at the end of that 5 minutes, I would always be in utter peace. Because that witnessing and really looking at reality, it neutralizes the mind. But the mind for us is always in control. The mind is in control. So, and so like no two people have ever seen the same Niagara Falls. It's always changing. But you say to somebody, hey, have you seen Niagara Falls? Yeah, I've seen it. It's great. Loved it. Don't need to go back there. And we exist in this world in which our mind just puts these 2D pictures in front of us and we get numbed out to life and we are just in the spell of the mind. Okay. So, and this is probably the most important point here. Oops, I tipped my hand. Okay. So, all right, we're going to do this exercise. Some of you have done this exercise. I've got a couple of wrinkles to it. All right. So all of that would be fine. The mind misrepresents and distorts reality. Okay, fine. As long as you don't believe it, it's no big deal. Right? If I say to you, Nancy S., if I say to you, you are made of green cheese, you're not really offended because you don't really believe it. So if we didn't believe our minds and everything that came through, we just went, but we believe it so much. It's so convincing. Right? And the biggest problem is we're completely powerless over the mind. So if we're looking at it from a 12-step perspective, we are 100% powerless over our mind. So here's a couple of tests just to sort of prove that. Okay. So ready? Whatever you do, don't think about a red elephant. What happened? Did you think about a red elephant? Did you think about this guy? Okay, so you've seen that one before. Okay, ready? We're going to give you the next test. Ready? Whatever you do, don't think about a blue walrus. How many of you found yourselves thinking of the exact thing I said not to think of? Anybody? Raise your hands if you thought about it. Yeah. Nobody's raising their hands. I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
The thing is, I made myself think about something else when you started to say it.
What about the blue walrus, though? Did I get you with the blue walrus?
No, because I preempted you were going to throw something at me. And so I made
Good.
sure that I
I
thought
love it.
about cat.
Okay, good. All right. Well, let's see how you do with the next one. Okay. So, well, I'm going to skip that one because we've done that one already. Okay. So, and Sarah, does that make you think that you have control over your mind?
No, but what I do is I spend a lot of time trying to avoid. It's part of that mechanism of trying to control.
Yes.
Something.
Right. Here's this. I can't take credit for this next one, but Sam Harris said it, and I absolutely loved it. That was the greatest thing. Just to show that we're the thing that I want you to get is you are not the thinker in your mind. These thoughts are coming, but you are not thinking them. If you were, you would be able to tell me what your next thought is going to be. So just take a moment and tell me, what's your next thought going to be? It's not really possible, is it? You don't know the next thing that's coming from your mind. So how can you be the one thinking if you have no idea what's coming next? The reality is thoughts are coming to you unbidden, and you have no power over what comes into your head. So that's, from 12-step parlance, that's the most important thing to understand. When you really see that you're powerless over something, you give up trying to fight it. So that's what I want to encourage you to do. Don't try to fight the mind. Try to see that understand that the information it's giving you is not accurate. One of my favorite movies is The Matrix. We are all in I'm talking and you can't see me, I'm sorry. We're all in this prison, this invisible prison, and we can't see it. And it's dominating and controlling our lives. It's like this, I don't know. I imagine, hopefully it doesn't offend anybody. Maybe it's like living in North Korea, where all of the information is controlled before it gets to you, and you don't actually get to hear truth. You get to hear somebody's version of the truth. That's a pretty good example of the mind. Okay, so let's take this. Enough of me sort of talking and bashing your mind. I want you to do this exercise. So this exercise is to write down your thoughts. So this is my list here that you're seeing. These are my most repetitive thoughts. So what I want you to do is every time you have a thought, I want you to write it down on the piece of paper. And then every time you hear that thought again, I want you to put a hash mark next to it. So we're going to see how the thing that I'll save this commentary until after. So we're just going to take, I think 4 minutes, Inga will do it. Let's just spend 4 minutes and just go ahead and jot down your thoughts. And anytime you have a repetitive thought, put a check mark next to it. Okay, ready? On your mark, get set, go. Okay, that might be enough time. Is that enough time? Yeah. You guys get the idea? I think I heard it said in a meeting once that we have about 64,000 thoughts a day, and us addicts, we have about 10 thoughts that we repeat again and again and again and again in our head 64,000 times. But do you see this running narrative? You see how this is like advertising copy or propaganda, right? It's not, your mind's not filtering truth to you. It's repeating the same thing over and over and over again. So I think what I want to do is this. I had this sort of intention of maybe doing a little bit of the Byron Katie work on taking some of the thoughts that feel the most true. But I think what I want to do is save that for after. So for those of you who want to hang out after and perhaps want to do that, maybe we'll work with a person or two, or we'll walk everybody through it. Right? Because so for those of you who aren't familiar with Byron Katie's work, it's basically asking a series of 4 questions and then turning it around, which is good. But as we've talked about, it focuses mainly on the thoughts and keeps us mostly in our head, and it does clear the path, and it's very good. So if you're interested in that more, you can hang out after, and we can tell you more about that. We're gonna skip on to the next part of our process, and look at that. So the reason those thoughts are repetitive and happen again and again is because they're part of a protection mechanism. So let's use myself as an example. So if I discovered in my upbringing that the worst idea that I could do would be to try to outpace my dad or outshine him, and that he felt more comfortable and he was not going to beat me if I underperformed and I didn't live up to my potential, then what I've learned about life and survival is to be a loser. I put that in quotes, but to be a loser is safer life strategy for me. So then I go into my life and I underperform and I don't live up to my potential. But why am I doing that? I'm doing that because that's what kept me safe as a child. Now, I could go into the Byron Katie work and I could say, I'm a failure. Is that true? Maybe it's true. Can I absolutely know that it's true? No, I can't know that I'm a failure. I could be right on time, right on my path. And I could go through this and I could get to a place of quiet where I have diffused the thoughts now in the moment. But have I gotten rid of it completely? Or does it still live deep down inside of me? It is possible, and this happened to me, because self-hatred is one of my sort of deepest character defenses, character defects, if you will. I remember, several years into that work, watching a documentary about self-hatred and not being able to relate, because that pathway, that neural pathway of self-hate dissolved. But it was a bit like being on a mental diet, right? So it dissolved. I wasn't walking down that path. And so I got used to not hating myself. But when I got triggered on this deeper level, it all came rushing back. I was like a drunk. I was like a thought drunk, right? And then it all came back full force, all that self-hatred. So it had, even though I had paved over the path, I'd done it with a lot of self-control in the way that Sarah outsmarted my little scheme, right? By trying to get ahead of it, right? And which was very effective. Good work. It's like that's what the mind will do. It'll do what it has to do to survive. Give me 1 second. So all of these thoughts that we're talking about, these thoughts, this mind, this system that we're talking about, can't trust it. We especially doubly can't trust it because most of the messages and most of the propaganda writing happened in our early childhood, and it happened to save us and protect us from pain and suffering. So for me, even though I get pain and suffering from being a loser, I feel safer in life. That's a formula for living that I am bound by. But what was I doing the whole time in my life? I was trying to be a success, right? So do you see how I'm like trying to drive a race car with the brakes on? And this is all of us. This is not unique to me. And so these negative thoughts and all of this stuff are our body's way of protecting us. But we're starting to learn a better way, right? These tools, right? So this is sort of the best way out is always through, right? I want to go through these feelings. I want to get to the other side. Because I did the Byron Katie work and it worked, but it didn't heal the wound. So this is my sort of my sort of image, keeping it all at bay. And I did a really good job of it. And I will say that understanding this about your mind is really the first step to starting to break free. So I did this work with Eckhart Tolle for 5 years. 5 years of just watching my thoughts. The problem is I still believed them. I kept witnessing and seeing, oh, I hate myself. But it didn't free me from it. So then I started doing Byron Katie. And I went, oh, I hate myself. I'm went, oh, that's not true. I don't really hate myself. I start to see that quiet underneath, but it didn't heal the wound. And now it's a different story because I'm starting to bring my soul, my true self, to the wounded part that believes that. And that belief is getting undone and dissolved at its core thing. So in the last 4 years, there's probably 10 major bottoms and things that have become undone in me that didn't get fixed by me struggling and striving to fix them, but by surrendering and letting go. Okay, so let's do an exercise, shall we? What I want you to do, and so again, for some of us, um, we want to go very slowly here. You have to gauge your sense of how much emotion you can take at one time because we don't want to be counterproductive. One of the things that's counterproductive is flooding the system. If the system gets overloaded, what happens is it goes into shutdown. So we want to avoid the shutdown at all costs, right? And so it's a little bit of managing yourself, but it's a little bit of being gentle with yourself. So what we want you to do is just to touch this lightly. Just touching it is such an act of courage and such a beautiful act of self-love. We're not going to solve it all today. Okay. So when we go into these things and we touch them, I just want you to touch them gently. And believe me, that actually opens up more doors. It's a little bit of that martial arts thing of slow down to go fast. If you try to push yourself in there, it's essentially kind of reenacting the same kind of violence we experienced before. And it can be re-traumatizing. So we have to have enough care and love for ourselves to understand that life is for us and life can hold us gently. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about a traumatic moment in your life. And if you're a little bit worried about getting overloaded and having the system shut down, don't choose the most traumatic moment of your life. Choose one that is a traumatic moment and gauge it. Maybe it's a 7 instead of a 10. It's an interesting story. I'll tell you this. So again, Byron Katie, 12 steps a huge part of my story. Eckhart Tolle is a huge part. Byron Katie is a huge part. But it's funny because there's a part in that Byron Katie work where it says, how do you react when you believe the thought, I'm a loser, right? Or whatever it is. That actually is the seed of all this work. Because what I ended up doing was I ended up spending an hour with that in that moment. Normally you spend a couple of moments there. And what I noticed is that stuff shifted for me more when I started to really feel the reaction. So we're not denying any of our emotions here. In fact, the emotions are our lifeblood. We want the emotions. We want to see that, we want to see the untruth, but we don't want to use that as a way to talk us out of the emotions. We just want to see that what the body's reacting to is not the truth. Does that make sense? You guys get the difference? So if it says I'm no good, we're not trying to say I am good and do the toxic positivity thing. We just want to see that the mind that's saying I'm no good is part of this 7 million-year-old protection mechanism. And that part that is hurting because it's getting the wrong information, but it's still hurting. So we're there for it. That's the difference. We're not trying to pretend the hurt is real, even though it's based on false information. Okay, so hopefully you have that moment. So I want you to look at that moment in your life and see what happened. And just kind of breathe into that. We don't want to go all the way into the feelings of it just yet, right? We're sort of just going slow. But what we want to see is can we start to see the difference between what happened and then what our minds told us? And let me just give you the best example I've ever seen for this. I was doing a workshop and this lady, she was up in front and she was talking about how her father held a gun on her. And the whole auditorium is aghast. So The fact, we want to separate the fact from the mind's interpretation. The fact was her father pointed a gun at her. That was fact. What her mind said about it was, my father doesn't love me. Now, did that actually happen? Or is that the mind interpreting that event? I think in the last workshop, and not all of you were here for that, I told a story about my father beating me with a 2x4. And what my mind told me about that was, he hates me and I hate him. When in reality, he was doing that because he loved me and he was afraid. So he hit me with a 2x4. That happened. He doesn't love me. That didn't happen. But I believe that it happened because that's what my mind told me. And as a kid, I had no chance at seeing that distinction, that difference. Does that make sense? As a kid, your mind says it and it's just truth. That's it. So see if you can find that moment and see if you can write down. I want you to write down what actually happened. And then I want you to write down what your mind told you happened. Okay. Do you have something there? Okay. Now, is it possible for you to see these are two different things? Can you see that what your mind told you happened is where the pain is really coming from? Like for myself, my dad hit me with a 2x4 on a 1 to 10 in terms of emotional intensity. That's about a 1. My dad hates me. That's a 10. It's a 10. I cannot bear my dad hating me. That child cannot bear it. Can you see that difference? So what we're working with, so just because we see that, that doesn't free us because this part's still hurting. There may be some relief in going, oh, okay, that's not true. I did 5 years of intensive therapy. And at the end of it, my therapist said, he goes, you're the best client I've ever had. At the end of it, I was so emotionally adept and I was no freer. I understood everything about my pain and my pain was still the same amount. It wasn't until I realized, oh, it was never true that my father didn't love me. That was what I needed to know. That was what my mind told me. And then I was free. Now, do I still have a part? You know, you just saw the part that got so emotional at that, right? That part's still there. I can make space for it. I can love it. I can give it space. So with these exercises and all that, don't worry if it's not nailing you right there, if you're not getting it right. This is the beginning of working with something, the beginning of starting to see what's really happened and separating our emotions are coming from what our mind is telling us about what happened. Now, what I want to do is I want to have you come to a more current event. And now I want this event to be innocuous, a mundane event in your life. The waiter burnt your toast. Okay, that level, right? You stubbed your toe. A check bounced, you know, you spilled something on your new rug. This type of variety of thing. But something that upset you, right? It's not neutral. There's an upset there. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to get in touch with that feeling, that irritation, that anxiousness, whatever it is. And in the same way that we just did, can you see that it's not caused by the event, but what your mind said about the event? So I'll give you an example of this. Let's say I go into a restaurant to get a Western omelet. And the guy says, sorry, we have no eggs, sir. And I say, okay, great, I'll have the oatmeal. Right? I have this desire. It doesn't happen, but I'm not really bothered about it. Let's say I come in a different time. I say, I'll have the Western omelet. He says, sir, we're all out of eggs. And I say, how dare you? I drove 2 hours to have an omelet here. And you guys have no eggs. You see, there's emotional upset. Is the emotional upset about the fact that the restaurant doesn't have eggs? Or is it about they don't see me or something like that? My needs aren't taken into account. They don't care about me. So that's what you want to try to do here. This is the beginning of us starting to work with the everyday moments in your life. Starting to see that there's an upset. And the upset is caused by a thought. And what I want you to do, and we're going to spend more time on this again in the next session too. We're just getting started with this. Is I want to see if you can find the thought underneath the thought, right? There's the like, he burnt my toast. Can you get to the thing where he doesn't care about me? And the real critical piece is, can you get to where that happened in the past? This is my new other favorite quote of mine. So where I quote me. There are no such thing as grown-up emotions. So if you're having an emotional reaction today about the toast or whatever it is, it's from the past. Can you see how this current situation now triggers the past? Because that's the key. Because if you can see that the toast is really about nobody loves me, now you're getting somewhere, because now we can deal with nobody loves me. Now we can go, nobody loves me. I'm powerless over that. That is an entire ism in itself. Nobody loves me. That is a wounded part of me that is completely bound. And I can take my focus off of the dang toast, because it's not about the toast or the rent or the partner or anything. They're all just triggers for nobody loves me or whatever the flavor is for you. And the sooner we can get down to nobody loves me, the sooner we can roll up our sleeves and start to work with that horribly wounded part that needs our love and care and attention that we have ignored for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Again, not because we're doing it wrong, because the system is designed that way. This is why we are truly powerless, because we are not in control of this machinery. It's in control of us. And our only way out is when we start to see the machinery. You can't escape the prison if you can't see the prison. And we're all in prison, imprisoned by our emotions and by these incredibly strong, powerful forces of trauma that take us over. And I will just say, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm not the most traumatized person who's ever lived, but I don't know. You can talk to Natasha, who's known me a long time. I've had my fair share of trauma in my life. And there's so much freedom around that now. There's so much freedom. You know, when my dad left this planet, I had not an ounce of resentment toward him. I had only compassion. Even though still today I have parts that feel angry, but it's that 4-year-old. How dare you hit me? I want to hit you. And I'm learning to give that part space. And the more space I give all these parts, the more space there is for me to feel me. So if you can get to that part of the past to see what the toast or whatever your version is triggers and start to be with that, that right there is the key. To just be present and just feel that. It starts to dissolve. My higher power gave me a message about 6 months ago. Every moment you spend with that feeling, that energy, dissolves it a little bit. How are you guys doing? There's too much of me just talking, and I'm not really sure where everybody's at. Is everybody doing okay? Is this stuff landing, or is it
I know for me it's landing, but you haven't invited us to speak, so we're listening.
I know. It's because we're pressed for time to get to the stuff. But I really want to hear what you have to say. And maybe for those of you who want to sort of hang out a little bit after, we can talk a little bit more just to each other about this. And if there's any sticking points, that'd be great. And then you can also let me know too. It's just, do we just make this whole thing a half hour longer so we have a little more space? Because right now for me, I'm missing hearing you guys and connecting with what's really happening in your space. Okay, so what we want to do, one of the big changes, one of the big advantages of doing this work this way is we're now going to have partners and we're going to connect during the week. And right after we finish, we're going to like pair people up. And for people who aren't paired up, we're going to take your names and numbers and we're going to pair you up with somebody else. So we're going to do that right at the end of the meeting. For right now, Inga and I are just going to give you a little bit of a sample of sort of how we work together and like what a sort of daily call looks like. It's going to be like and then we're going to give you like a sheet that you and your partner can use just to guide yourself. Because what we want to stay away from in the beginning is, cross-talking and advice giving and all of that. Because really the whole point of this is, can you just be there for each other and just witness their feelings and allow them to be and give somebody that space? Okay. All right. So Inga, are you ready? Let's spotlight Inga and myself. And I will do this. Okay.
Okay.
Which one are we doing? Are we doing that one? Okay. All right. Ring, 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 ring.
Good morning.
She never picks. Oh, hi, Inga. Good
Hey,
morning.
how are you?
Or I guess good afternoon. How are you?
Oh, I'm okay. How
Yeah.
about you? Will you start with a check-in, like a quick one, to see where we're at?
Yeah. Do you want to check in first or do you want to check in second?
Oh, I don't mind. I can go first.
You want to go first? Okay.
Oops.
That's your new bell.
My new bell, right. Yeah, I mean, I'm noticing that I really could spend time today. There's a part of me that, on this workshop that I'm enjoying. Right now, there's a part that feels a little bit scared.
Mm.
I'm also noticing, over the last weeks, my anxiety in general is so much less in the mornings.
Mm.
Yeah, and also I see changes in the body. I can really see how things are changing.
Mm.
But right now, I could really spend some time with a part that is afraid I'm doing it wrong. Such an old friend.
And great. Let me just point out to the group, like, okay, so she's sharing, and one of the things she's doing is she's letting me know that you want to include in your share and your check-in if you have any parts that you're aware of that you want to spend time with. So that way you can help to sort of schedule the call, whether you do a half hour or whether you do an hour or 45 minutes. You want to make sure you both get enough time. And you also want to sort of let somebody know, is there something you want to work on? And I think at the beginning, you want to really limit the crosstalk until you start to feel comfortable with your partner. And then you can start to open up. So because Inga and I know each other, I might say something about that or I might not. In this case, I'd say, great, thank you for sharing. And I'll check in now. Yeah, oh, there's my camera. Yeah, I'm in the middle of this workshop and it's just going terrible. No, I'm in the middle of this workshop and, I think it's going good. I feel connected to my truest self. But there is this part that's always sort of scanning and always looking for any sense of disapproval. And, and are they going to not like it, or have I said something that's offended somebody, etc. So it's like I can see that part. So it'd probably be good for me to maybe spend a little time with that.
Mm.
And our check-ins would obviously be longer. I would talk about my dad, talk about playing pickleball and how I injured myself or didn't injure myself, etc. Right? But we're keeping it very short just for the purposes of this demonstration. And then usually what we do, I would say, is we go, which thing that we both want to touch on feels more alive in the room. So how about for you, Inga? What do you want to go first? Do you want to touch into that?
Yeah, I would love to at least touch it and give it a little bit of space,
Great. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I see there's a part that's really loud that says, well, I have to get this right.
Mm.
I really have to get this right. It's important that I don't make a mistake. It's important that I really get it right.
Mm.
And I can feel it. It's it comes from the upper right corner of my head.
Mm.
It's pretty loud. So you have to get it right.
Mm.
And there's a part reacting that is afraid, so I can't do it. It's more in my chest right here. I'm so scared that I'm going to fail.
Mm.
And that no one will like me. People will get upset and everybody will see that I'm a failure. Yeah, and I would talk to that part, this is a short version, so usually I would just spend and allow myself to really feel this. Feel it, feel the fear, also feel the sadness.
Mm.
And investigate what is it about. It's like this part really wants to connect with people here.
Mm.
And loved. And I might talk to it. Say, well, it's okay. I really, really, I see you. And I understand how much you want to connect to these people. How much you want to be loved.
So I'm going to interject, Inga, just for the purposes of time.
Sure.
So normally I would not interject at that moment when she's in the middle of something sensitive, right? You notice what all I'm doing is listening. I'm not doing anything. At the end, I might say, I have an observation. Do you want to hear it? I ask. I don't offer unsolicited feedback. And so Inga, would it be okay if I said something?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
I really can feel that part of you that really does want to connect. and how much it does love. And I see that it's like that's part of the reason why it's so afraid, because it wants to connect so much and it's so afraid of rejection. So I don't need to sort of offer that, but sometimes being seen, and you have to start to get a feel. So in your partnerships, you want to sort of keep your boundaries more firm to begin with. And then also, don't be afraid of reinstating the boundary. If someone says, hey, I want to offer it, and you go, you know what, I think next time, I don't want any feedback. And so we always want to respect more not feedback, because the real value that I bring to Inga in the situation is just my presence, that listening. That's what I'm just like the other person with the rope and we're rock climbing. It allows her to go deeper and vice versa. So then I'm going to go do mine real fast, but then I would say, yeah, I can really feel that fear in my neck. And it's very much the fear of, if I make a mistake, if I do one thing wrong, my father's going to kill me. And it really feels, that part of me really feels tortured. But to live in fear all the time like that part of me is just living in a constant state of torture. And then I might let the part talk, and the part might say something along the lines of, I just can't take it anymore. I can't. I can't keep living in this constant state of fear. So you saw what happened. I really went there, and it's probably because of the depth of we're all here together, this big giant group. It's a lot easier to touch. Like if I was trying to touch that by myself, it might take me a half hour, but inside of a minute, I can get down to it. And the other thing to notice is we had our check-ins in the beginning. Once we go into being with things, there's no story, right? It's strictly what can I be with? And we also want to be sensitive to, I don't want to push my way into this right now. It felt right, but it's time to stop. And then the other thing to look out for, which isn't in your sheet, but maybe we'll, add it in the next update of the sheet, which is when resistance comes up, like, so I might get nauseous, or I might feel something else or get irritated about something else. My experience is it's always best to go with the thing that's protecting. So if the part says, I hate this process, this is really stupid, it's better for me to shift out of the deeper thing and go to the more shallow thing and deal with the thing that's sort of fighting the process, because that's a protection mechanism and that part needs to feel safe. So then we might say, okay, how are you feeling? Good. Anything you want to share to wrap up? When are we meeting again? Try to leave a couple minutes at the end. Anything else you want to say quickly, Inga?
No, I mean, I could say something about your process right now, but I think the time is limited, right?
Right. Yeah, because
yeah.
we know each other. She would definitely say something to me, and it would be helpful. It would be great to be hearing that. But just for purposes of time, we're keeping it short.
Maybe just one thing. I can share a little bit about the outline, at the end after the workshop. And it's a quite safe thing to do with people that you just don't know. So yeah, I can just
okay. So
share
here, why don't you just say, just like keep it to like a minute if you can, and I'm gonna put this
maybe
there
put it
with
up.
you. I'm gonna do
So
that.
the idea,
I have to leave me here. Oh wait, no, here I can do this. Give me 1 second. Almost there. There it is. Oh, we got it. We got to kind of do it like this so they can see the whole thing. That's going to be too small for everybody. Okay, so I'm going to let you talk, Inga, about this, but I'm gonna remove you from the picture so that everybody can kind of read it because it's kind of small. And Natasha, if you can put this into the chat for everybody, this exact document that you're seeing right here is being put into the chat for you. And if for some reason you don't get it here in the chat, you can just email me. It's evan@enlightenedworkshops.com, and we'll just email you this. So this is your template. So what do you want to say about that, Inga?
Yeah, so I've done this with people who I didn't really like or I didn't really know. And the idea is to do basically a quick check-in. We could do 3 minutes or 5 minutes, just agree on something. Just to see like, okay, what happened? What is here in the room? And then we often got off the call or just muted ourselves to really have some quiet time and see what is present, to really get a sense of, okay, what's going on inside of me, really like maybe sitting down there are also meditations you can use to check in what is going on. And then we would take turns and do basically something like Evan and I just did, to share, like, okay, let's say I have this critic here that is saying, hey, you did a terrible job. And really also watching, okay, what is here, what needs to be said and felt. And because there is no, basically you can do this completely without feedback, the other person is just there to listen. It's a relatively safe thing. You don't need to be in the same program. You don't, I mean, the other person, of course, should keep confidentiality, but it's like the other person is just holding space. Yeah.
Okay, great. Perfect. Okay, so hopefully that's getting into the chat there. And so that's kind of it. So we want you to get together with your partner 3 times. It should be at least a half hour, right, to give yourself enough space. And you guys will work out what works best for you. And then we want to schedule a meeting of all of us together. I think I'm trying to think of a time. Probably it would need to be sort of Wednesday or Thursday. So I will reach out to I'll send an email out to the group to get a sense of when's best for everybody, and then we'll kind of figure that out. Okay, so we're gonna bring this whole thing in for a landing here in just a moment. And let me see you all. Okay, so I also want to sort of make a little pitch for, as you're doing this, continuing to build that morning regimen. Check in with yourself. I'm a huge fan of the 2-way prayer, which we did not cover in today's workshop. We covered it in previous workshops. But it's essentially just having a conversation with your highest self. And then meet with your partner 3 times. In your morning regimen can be whatever you want it to be: meditation, it can be exercise, it can be, reading your daily reader, etc. But that's such an important staple of this emotional sobriety. If you wake up and pick up your phone first thing, it's going to be next to impossible, I think, to get to emotional sobriety. Because those first moments when you wake up are probably the most critical moments. And then also you could add to this being with some feelings. Okay, so we're going to take just a quick break here and just talk about upcoming workshops and such. And just sort of, what's coming up in the near future. So we have a physical pain workshop. Those dates have been rescheduled. And we're gonna, these times might adjust slightly, but not seriously, if we need to make the workshop a little bit longer. It'll be kind of the same format. I think eventually with a lot of these workshops, we want to try to do 2, depending on the subject, 2 to 3 part workshops. Like for the relationship workshop, I think it'd be great to do as a 3-parter, because then what happens, we do a workshop, 2 weeks later, we do another one, and then 2 weeks later, we do another one. So everybody's in the conversation for an entire month. Because outside of this emotional, I had a note here to say that I think this is our most important workshop. And that if not this one, the relationship workshop. So the physical pain workshop speaks for itself. If you're in physical pain, what I've discovered is all the same process works for physical pain as well. And to start to really get underneath and see that physical pain, obviously I'm not a doctor, but we talk a lot about Dr. John Sarno, who is a doctor who treated 10,000 back cases, and his conclusions about pain and what it really is and what it really represents falls very much in line with what I've discovered myself. And so using those two kind of together, how do we start to do the same kind of work and bring it to our bodies directly is kind of the notion of that, which I'm really looking forward to. And then relationships with my wife, obviously, that's going to be amazing. I can pretty much, we're going to start with the things that you would get in a regular workshop about how to communicate better and all of that. And then we're going to go into the sort of next level with it in terms of, it's not all just about communication. It's really a lot more about what you don't say and how you deal with yourself that allows things to function very smoothly. So other ways you can connect with us, we have a new meditation group Inga has started, and that's on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific time. It's free. And the basic idea behind it is it's sharing and connecting. So we wouldn't be doing that processing. We wouldn't be answering questions in the way that we do here. It's mainly meditate together, and then everybody kind of shares their experience. So it's a very heart-centered thing. We had the first one last week, and from what I understand, it went great. And Inga's doing it again next Thursday. Inga, we have to wrap up, so I'd love to have you talk about it for a second, but we're not gonna. Sorry. Other ways you can connect with us, we have two WhatsApp group. One is just announcements, and the other is reaching out for support and connecting with other people. So if you're still looking for a partner outside of this, that's a good way. We have emails that we send out once a week. So if you want to be a part of that, let us know. Oh, and then also, if you have questions about that format that we did, Inga said it's okay to reach out to her. So Inga, if you want to put your contact information in the chat, you can do that. We also have weekly drop-ins, which we're developing a wonderful group where I answer questions and we kind of work with the parts and get down to this stuff very quickly. So it's very powerful. It's a very cost-effective way to start to touch this and see this work and get repetitive, do it again and again and get practice with it. And it's also really great to see other people's stuff. A lot of people get more out of watching other people work because it's also universal. And then I offer one-on-one coaching if you want to really go deep. So next time, we're going to talk about the myth of happiness, the drug of hope. I'm going to introduce you to the sphere ladder, which is a way of which is a process to get down to the things that are sort of at the core. And then we're going to have a checklist for how to handle your difficult emotions. And we're going to work, as we started to, with when something comes up, how to deal with it live. And then if we have time, I put map your emotions. I don't know. Again, there's only so much we can do in a certain amount of time. Oh, I'm talking and you can't see me. Okay. So
Evan,
okay. Yes.
you said you were going to pair people up.
Yeah, we're going to do that right now. We're going to do
Okay.
that right now. Okay.
Okay.
So let's do this sort of systematically here. We don't have a good process for that because this is the first time we're doing it. So let's just see how it goes. Let's see. Can you raise your hand if you already have if you've already found a partner?
I can't raise my hand except like this.
Okay, so you already found a partner though, Nancy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Who is your partner?
Delia.
Okay, great. So Nancy and Delia. Wonderful. Okay. Do we have any other partnerships that have been created? Let me see. Let me go to the gallery view here. Okay, Angie.
Yeah, I'm already partnered with Inga.
Okay, Angie and Inga. Okay. And then Jennifer.
I had reached out. Oh, wow, I just blanked on her name and I can't believe that just happened. But Delia and I had connected and I had also reached out to Sarah. So
Okay.
I don't know if we're to have one partner only or if we can
You know
with
what? I think it'd be, if you have the space to do two partners, go for it. Delia, you wanted to say something about that?
Yeah, I reached out to Jennifer and Nancy and Amber because I wanted to connect with people, and I'm happy to do this format with anybody who wants to do that.
Didn't even occur to me. See the amazing things that are happening? That's great. Yeah, I mean, to do it with more people, I guarantee you're going to get great things out of doing it with more people, Delia, because they're going to touch different parts of you. Because so this is also for you when you get paired up with somebody. Don't forget that whoever you get and whoever's showing up in your space is a reflection of you. And so whatever good feelings you have, whatever agitation you have about that, that's you. That's something for you to use to grow with. Right? Because your parts may have reactions to this person, etc. Right? So that's the stuff that you can use to work with. And you could even go talk to another partner. So if there's more people that you want to work with, get more numbers, I'm completely, I support that. Don't overwhelm yourself.
I think
Yeah,
I
Delia.
misunderstood the instructions because I was connecting with people who said things that I was interested in
Yeah.
connecting with them.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
fine.
I didn't mean to mislead anybody to think we were going to partner, but I'm happy to partner with whoever I talk to this week.
Great.
I just have to say, my
Yes.
thing is that I'm in London.
Yes.
I think there's everybody here, apart from the people in Israel, Jerusalem.
Yep.
That's like 2 hour difference, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm very open and very good. I reached out to Jennifer. If someone's 8 hours difference, as long as they're willing to be talking to me before it gets too late in the UK.
Perfect. That's great.
Because UK, I'll go to bed about 10.
Yeah. Well, Inga lives in Germany and I live here and I'm up early. And so we talk in my morning and that works for us. So that can still work. So, a lot of different situations can work. So just get numbers of anybody that you think you're trying to connect with. And remember, if there are any upsets or anything, it's all part of it and it's okay. And we can just bring that back and we can process that upset that you have with somebody else. I wouldn't process it with that person, right? But you can say my feelings got hurt because of this or whatever. It's all that's what we want, right? So that stuff comes up, and anything that comes up is there. And again, like we just did, as much as you can go, oh, this happened, and these feelings are coming up. How can I trace that back to something earlier? What does that remind me of about my childhood? What's the earliest time I can remember that feeling of feeling like they don't love me or they don't care, right? And then you can use that and start to be with that. So, and we'll help you out, Sarah, if it gets stuck, because there are other people who couldn't be here today who are definitely in the UK. And we have more people who were in other workshops. So, we'll work to get you paired up. Ideally, be somebody in this workshop, so we're all doing the same thing. Okay, Aura.
I wanted to quickly say, Sarah, that time frame does work for me. So we're good for matching up California to UK.
Perfect. Aura and Sarah together again.
Oh no, it's she was talking to someone else, not me.
Oh, sorry. I got confused. All right. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you don't have a partner, we'll do it offline. I think that's the best way, unless somebody wants to sort of say something now and try to sort of connect now. I can have you email me, and I might even do a little survey just to see, so that when we pair people up, that we kind of get the best fit.
I don't have a partner. I wasn't sure who to reach out to. I was so in the zone of focusing on the material. I lost track of who was in California and
right.
I was
No,
waiting.
no, it's understandable. And listen, it's the first time we're doing this, partnering, but we'll find a more elegant process. Chona, did you have something? So, Jan, I'm just going to see if
I'm open to anybody who's willing to work with me. I'm
does
open.
anybody want to work with Jan?
I'll work with Jan. This is Chona.
Okay.
Chona, okay.
Thank you.
Chona and Jan.
Could I just ask, I don't know who it was that said that they'd work with me.
Yeah, I got lost in that myself.
That was me, Sarah Jennifer.
Oh, awesome.
Jennifer. Okay.
And
okay.
I sent you my number.
So that was Jennifer. Okay, so then Aura, did I mess you up?
I'm with Adelia, yeah.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so Jennifer and Sarah, and then Aura and Odelia. I'm sorry, I saw your picture and I thought you were talking. Okay, so Aura, well, that makes sense. You guys are both near each other. And
so I'm Cliff. I still need somebody to pair it with. I don't know if you're available, Evan. But...
I have a lot of partners already. Thank you. Okay, so let's see who doesn't have a partner. I don't know if Lex, you're looking for a partner. Two guys, that might be good. I don't know if Lex is there or not. How about you, Nancy? So I'm going to lower Jennifer and Chona's hands because you guys are partnered up. Delia's partnered up.
I'm partnered with Delia.
Nancy S. Oh, okay. Nancy S.
No, Nancy T is partnered
Nancy
with you
T.
again.
Okay, right, Nancy T. And then Nancy S. Do you have a partner? You're looking for a partner?
No, not yet. Chris and I have messaged back and forth since one of the first workshops, but no, I haven't partnered with anyone yet.
Okay. Chris, what do you think about working with Nancy S?
I think she's offline or something.
Oh, she's off there. Okay, well, I'll run that by her.
Okay.
Okay, possibility.
For me, it's ideal someone in Central or Eastern. I'm not a late night girl, so
Right. Well, she's in
miss
Nashville,
out on
so
West
that's
Coast. Yeah.
Nashville's right in there. Okay. Okay. So Chris and Nancy S.
T.
T. No, S. You're Naz.
I'm S.
Yes.
I'm S.
Okay. You dueling Nancy.
Easy to get mixed up. Yeah.
Okay. So Chona and Jan. Okay. And so Sarah and Jennifer. Good. Okay. Who's unaccounted for? So Cliff. And I think Lex must be offline.
No, I'm here. I can do it.
Okay, so and what's your time zone, Lex? Isn't it Pacific time? Oh, it's Eastern. That's right. That's right. And Cliff, what about you?
California.
Okay, let's have you guys chat. Can you guys exchange numbers in the chat right here, and then see if that works out?
Okay.
Sorry, such a ham-handed process. Again, like I said, the most important thing though is that we get you guys working and applying this to your lives and starting to, again, focus on gentle. That's why, the less crosstalk and feedback, probably the better to begin with, so that they're just holding space and you feel safe to just, share what's happening for you. Okay, so let's bring the meeting proper to a close. I don't know about you, but I feel like I need a nice little cleansing prayer to close this all out. And then we'll close out the meeting proper, and then we'll have some questions and some answers. Potentially, Inga will be around to answer any questions about the worksheet. And we might even do a little bit of the Byron Katie work if somebody's interested. Those are the things that are possible. Okay, so I'm going to, unless there's any objections, Cliff, your hand is raised. I'm assuming you're not objecting. Okay, I'm going to say a little prayer and then we'll close it out. And then maybe we'll do the serenity prayer at the end after I finish this one. That sounds good. Okay. Thank you so much to our deepest, truest selves, and thank you so much to the incredible energy collected here. We're all so aware that it's our deeper truths that are pulling us, guiding us to more happiness and more trust in life. And that all these old notions of God and this punishing aspect and all these things and us having fear about turning it over, when we think about it from the standpoint of when we're praying to the thing that wants the most happiness for us in our lives, well, then we can begin to trust that and open ourselves to that. And so we thank you for this opportunity to work together, to be together, to explore our true selves, to open to our true selves, and to begin to dare to live from our true selves. Thank you for all these wonderful souls and the energy that they bring. And thank you for each and every one of you, the masterpiece that you are. Let's clear off all the muck and the dirt so that you can shine and be everything that you were meant to be and everything that you already are. Amen. And we'll just say the we version of the Serenity Prayer, and then those who want to skedaddle can skedaddle. Let's everybody feel free to unmute, and we'll say it together. God, us the serenity to accept
the things we cannot change,
to change the things
we can,
and
the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so we'll be reaching out to you regarding scheduling that other sort of group call. And if for whatever reason you can't make that one, if we're going to poll everybody and find the best time. Then we'll have that recorded so that you'll be able to sort of listen in and see what happened and get your questions answered. And then, of course, we'll meet back here at roughly the same time a week from now. And I think I'll probably want to offer a follow-up session after that one too, because I want to keep you guys in this conversation for as long as you can. It's so tough without a structure, without a group, without a community. So whatever we can do to support each other, to help keep each other showing up for ourselves in this way, that's what we want to do. So thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you, Evan.
Yes.
Thank you.
And if you want to hang out and get questions answered, feel free to do so. And if you want to leave now, you feel there's no guilt. If you have to go to bed, you can peace out.
Jennifer?
Yes.
I meant to say, you know, the with the mobile phone, the FaceTime, you know, like, do you have an Apple?
Yeah, I do. I have a really challenging internet connection. So anything without video is a better way to go.
Yeah. Well, listen, do WhatsApp. That's great.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
That's fine. And I'm a bit confused, Evan, about when you arrange to do this. Do we, as the person we've chosen, does Jennifer and I, do we make a time?
Yeah, you make a time for yourselves, what that fits your schedule the best. And you just want to meet through. I mean, I probably didn't say it, but ideally you'd meet every day. You know what I mean? But try to meet at least 3 times.
Okay.
You want to get in the habit of starting to pay attention to what you're feeling, right? To undoing, because listen, we're all in this process of stopping being numb. You know, I think most of us here use substances to try to numb ourselves out. And we've let that go, but there's all sorts of different ways we numb ourselves. So when we start this process, we're numb. And there's always parts of us that remain numb and that we're slowly thawing. And so the best way to access that is to sort of always be aware of what you're feeling, to be connected to what you're feeling. And a lot of times that may not be good. And so you want to sort of be with that just in small doses. Because, it's funny that there's that whole notion of be here now. I remember reading that and trying to essentially like meditate through my whole life, be here now. I'm just looking at this and I'm just seeing this and I'm being completely empty. And it's like, that's not, just lately, that's not my experience of what being here now really means. Being here now means, oh, wait a minute, something's happening inside of me. This person is saying this and I'm having this reaction. Now I'm really being here now. I'm aware of my body. I'm aware of the reaction in my body. I'm aware of what they're saying. I'm aware of their energy. Now I'm really being here now. And the more that I can be with what is happening right here, right now, I don't really need to go outside of this moment to solve or to deal with what's happening. Okay, so this is our sort of question and answer time, because there was a lot of me talking and not a lot of you guys sharing. So if you guys want to share, and Natasha, you sort of know how to handle the after party thing. So why don't you explain to people the best way to approach this?
Yeah, just if you have a question for Evan, raise your hand and ask it.
That doesn't seem complicated.
Yeah. And then we'll just call on you. Bang, bang, bang. Right, Nancy?
Well, okay.
Oh, you're muted, Nancy.
What if Chris doesn't want to be my partner? Are there other partners to partner with?
Yeah,
and or team
we'll
up
get you
with
sorted, right? So I have a possibility, you and Chris. Well, I think because right now we sort of have everybody sort of sorted. I guess she's not there, right? She's but we'll connect with her, and I
can text her too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but because we're assigning partners, then to me that's already assigned, because that's kind of already done. So if she's having any kind of trouble with that, she can take it up with me. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Sometimes people hire me, maybe you don't believe this, but sometimes people hire me out for muscle. really handle with really challenging situations that, that really, when it comes to physical violence, I'm your guy. Not really, but just kidding.
Okay.
Any questions, or should we all just go home and take a nap?
I
Okay.
have one
Yes.
question.
Sarah.
It might be really, really silly, but when you were
Oh.
talking, because you've gone beyond the ego and you've gone other places, but when you were at the ego, you said a lot of stuff referring to the ego in that all the traits around the ego were negative. So I just wanted to ask, is there, because it was all referring to it as bad stuff, does the ego have good aspects?
Oh, absolutely. So
Okay.
remember, the ego is a protection mechanism. That's, it's essentially a survival machine. And so its intentions are always good. So like, here's the best example I can give. So imagine there's a little girl and she's 4 and she's just the cutest thing ever. And she has an older brother who's 6 and they live with an alcoholic father. Okay. And if they wake him up at all at night, he goes into a rage. So the older brother, and she's just a bubbly little girl. They're trying to go to sleep at night, and she has a hard time calming herself down because she's so excited about life. The older brother might say, "Hey, shut up, shut up." Now, why is he doing that? He's kind of almost being mean to her, but actually he's doing it completely out of love. He's doing it to protect her because he doesn't want her to get hurt by the father who's going to come in there and maybe even beat them. Right. And so that's a pretty good picture for what the ego parts are kind of always doing. They're always protecting you from something else that they think is a bigger threat. So like for example, hating myself, it's just like people would talk to me. It's just like, I hate myself so much. I hate everything about me. Like that was my thing. That was a protection mechanism that I used that I've started to grow out of because it served me to it protected me from all the violence from my father and all the hysteria of my mother and how absolutely uncontrolled that felt. And so by hating myself, it was saying, no, I didn't grow up in this terrible environment. It's kind of all my fault. And it's my fault because I have all this anger. Right. And so it keeps that entire situation under wraps. And the way that I deal with it, just like I had my depression, the depression was a protection. It saved me from having to deal with how strong the terror and the rage were. And so this self-hatred protects me from having to be with how completely terrified I was as a child and how overwhelmed I felt and how much I couldn't take it and how mad I was. That's one of the hardest things for me to be with is how mad that little kid is about how he was treated. So the intentions behind, I mean, what's worse than self-hatred? I hate myself. That's terrible. But the intentions behind it are to keep me safe. So the intentions are always good, but the execution is not always good, if that makes sense. Did that add up at all? I'm sorry, I'm looking down there. Did that add up at all for you, Sarah?
It didn't, because I was just I wasn't referring to it in the sense of where I get confused is I wasn't referring to the ego in like the boy saying a negative thing to the girl, but he's doing it from the right place. I'm more like, does the ego have a place in positivity? Can it be like, you see, I'm not sure about the part that says, helps me get through by going, you're safe, you're safe. Who is talking there? Like I'm talking to myself to try and counteract the anxiety by saying lying.
Right. You're safe.
You're safe. Is that my ego talking? I'm well confused.
It could be. I mean, if it is, it's not the worst ego message I've ever heard. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But again, and we haven't had time to get into this, but the energy behind something is really what its true intent is. So you could be saying you're safe, and that could be out of fear, or it could be out of love. And that's kind of the best way to determine whether it's your ego or whether it's your higher power. So
it's frightened. So for sure.
Right. And so then it's the ego. So then it's a part that's trying to help. So hey, Inga, is it okay if I share about the part that your part that we touched this morning?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So like here's a really good example. So I forget how we got into it, but Inga had this little girl, and her biggest desire is just to connect with people. And it's just the most beautiful, sweet energy. So this is kind of something that's kind of in between the ego and in between the higher power, right? It's this genuine desire to connect. And so there's something in there that's a little bit of an in between. But in answer to your question, that's the best way to tell where it's coming from. If it's coming from fear at all, or if it's coming from any kind of constriction, then it's probably a part, and that part is maybe afraid of the emotions. It's afraid of, no, we can't have this emotion. That anxiety is going to be too much. So let's not feel that. So you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. Like that could be its intention. But that's what you want to get down to, its intention. And if the intention is from fear, you want to find something that actually has a better intention. You want to connect with your higher power in some way that's more grounded because the truth is you are okay, but you want to hear it from something where it knows you're okay. It's not afraid that you're not okay. It's just telling you you're okay. And the two-way prayer is a good way to do that. But then also touching this part, sitting with that part, the part that's going, you're okay, you're okay. But it's afraid. You can sit with that part that's afraid because it's trying to protect something. And that's a gentler one than trying to dive deep per se, because that one's a little bit more of a surface protection mechanism. So you can go to her, you can say, wow, I see you're really scared. And start to breathe into that. Start to breathe into the one that's saying, no, you're okay, and feel its fear and be with its fear. That would be a good thing for you to do with your partner. Okay, great. Does anybody have any other questions? Yay. You're so wonderful, Sarah. I'm so glad you're here. No, everybody's kind of got it. I don't know if anybody wanted to do any of the Byron Katie thing. We talked even at one point, somebody pitched the idea of doing a free workshop of questioning your mind. But I don't know if that's a thing. We'll just have to see how if that all oh, one thing I didn't share to the group proper. So maybe I can share it with you guys. Coming up, we're going to be, sort of building more workshops, and there's an opportunity sort of to have people sort of be part of little focus groups. So you can just kind of weigh in, and where I'll say, hey, if we did this or if we did this, what would feel better to you? So if you're interested at all being in a focus group or something like that, and then there may even be a situation where we start to build a course and we offer people reduced rates for going through the course and giving their feedback as we go through the course. These are just some things that we're thinking about. So if any of those things sound interesting to you, just send me an email, Evan at Enlightened Workshops, and we can include you in that if you want to be included in that. All right, well, I'm not sensing that a lot of people have a lot of questions, so maybe we should just wrap up and just go enjoy the rest of our days, right? One of the beauties of finishing our workshop a little bit early is we still have a day left. Well, some of us do, Sarah. Some of us have a day left to go go out in the sun and enjoy. And Natasha needs to rest.
But I want to share something really positive from doing your last workshop.
Please do.
I went really deep in your last workshop, particularly at the end, because I stayed on. And afterwards, I went into my son's room and I was really aware of wanting him to hold space with me because I felt very childlike.
Yeah.
I was trying to get him to look after my child, and I got to observe it. I got to observe what I was doing and not feel rejected because it wasn't for him. But then about a week or so later, I witnessed another one where he had his vape and he damaged the sofa, the beautiful sofa that you might be able to see.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I know, love, and his vape burnt it.
Oh, no.
And I went in, I found it, and I went in and I was like going, "What have you done?" and getting really emotional. And then I caught that this wasn't me. This was my mum. So it was really heavy since seeing you. You know, it was like, wow, I caught it. It was like, oh my God, because I couldn't stop. I was feeling like really intense about it. And why are you not feeling bad about it? And so we resolved with each other. And I just said, look, how I felt. And we gave each other a hug. And there wasn't that conscious exchange.
That's so wonderful. Well, I'd love to, you know what? I'd love to have you do like a little testimonial. I don't know if you'd be up for it. And anybody who's had other things to sort of share, we just get you on Zoom. Because, you know, I was talking with Inga this morning. It's just like every day I just have so much gratitude for my seeing things like that you're talking about, where I go, oh my gosh, I see how I'm getting taken over and how this thing's and when you see it, you start to break free from it. The seeing of it is the most powerful thing. So that's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Wonderful. All right. Well, I guess let's everybody disperse. Go ye forth and prosper, shall we? I look forward to seeing you all again. I will be reaching out. Nancy, I'll let Chris know that you guys are partners. You guys connect already? Or thank you. Okay, sounds good. And then I'll be reaching out to everybody just to maybe send a little poll about the best times for the weekly call. And maybe not everybody will be able to be there, but oh well, we'll figure it out. Okay, well, be well, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Cheers. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.